Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Top 11 New Capabilities in PTC Windchill 11 webinar, presented by James Bichetto. James has been with PTC for 19 years. He has been working on PTC Windchill for the last 11 years and was a Creo specialist for 8 years prior to that. My name is Nicole Abadikian, and I will be moderating today's webinar. I'll also be recording the webinar for replay purposes. If at any point you're experiencing technical difficulties, please click on the hand button with the green arrow located on the tab to the left of your control panel. If your control panel is not open, click on the orange button with the arrow. You can submit questions at any time during the webinar by typing your question and pressing send in the question box located on the bottom of the control panel. We will do the Q&A at the end of the webinar. Now, to give us a better idea of who's in our audience today, we just have one quick polling question. What version of PTC Windchill are you currently using? PTC Windchill 11, Windchill 10.2, Windchill 10.1, PTC Windchill 10 hour earlier, or you do not currently use PTC Windchill? I'll give everyone a little more time to choose. Okay, we have about everyone finished answering the questions. As you can see, most people use PTC Windchill 10.2. If you would like to view the presentation at full screen, please click on the button located at the tab to the left of your control panel. And now I'd like to introduce you to our presenter, James. James, it's all yours.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. This is James Bichetto, and I'm excited to talk to you today about the top 11 new capabilities in Windchill 11. This is not a full list of improvements, but rather a list I feel you'll find exciting and that can benefit all of our customers. PTC Windchill 11 is the first PLM platform to deliver groundbreaking new enhancements in product development data and processes. PTC Windchill 11 is smart by delivering role-based PLM data to targeted stakeholders at their point of need. It is connected, gathering data from the product's operation, leveraging IoT for fully closed-loop processes. It is complete, managing multi-dimensional digital product definition, requirements through service, and it is flexible with deployment options that scale to your needs, including cloud, SaaS, and subscription. Let's take a look at the top 11 new capabilities in more detail. The first improvement area is Windchill Search. Search is a core part of PLM. It is important to all of our customers because faster, better search tools improve process efficiency and drives reuse of parts, designs, and documents. With Windchill 11, we have significantly improved search to make it more complete and more effective. First, the classification search included with Windchill Parts Link and the traditional Windchill attribute searching are now combined. This means users can search on both classification information and/or business attributes simultaneously. To further improve search, new capabilities that have also been introduced include faceted search, making filtering of results easy. Think of your favorite consumer website where you can filter searches based on price, brand, or consumer ratings. This type of search filtering is now available in Windchill 11. Windchill 11 also includes keyword in context, which means customers can search for a word or a phrase, and Windchill will show you the sentence in the document that it appears in. The next improvement area is Query Builder. We have completely redesigned the UI and implemented an HTML interface instead of the Java applet. The new graphical user interface makes understanding the relationships between the objects easier to create and understand. Query Builder is smarter by the way it allows you to filter and display only the object types and available relationships that you're using in your deployment of Windchill when you are creating new reports. We have also enabled the report creator to specify that the query may be used in the advanced search to help users find data that traverse multiple object relationships. We've also built in better documentation to provide more information on the objects and access to more detailed help. Continuing on the theme of searching and reporting, our third topic is the new PTC Navigate View role-based apps. For a product development company, product data is its most valuable asset, and it therefore should not be a secret to internal stakeholders who need to access PLM data and processes. Fortunately, all of this data is rapidly becoming available to participants in the product development process thanks to constant connectivity, connected devices, and technology platforms that can understand and act on it. Relevant product information supports a general 2015 trend called instant skills and applies it within the realm of product development. The idea is that people don't need advanced training on a PLM system to participate in the product development process. Because of our new Windchill and ThingWorx connection, PTC is able to deliver simple, easy-to-use apps that unleash product data. Apps like View Part, View Drawing, View Parts List, View Part Structure, View and Measure 3D Geometry, and View Documents. It's also very important to note that the out-of-the-box apps provided by PTC can be deployed on existing versions of Windchill back to 10.1 M40. This is significant because you can start to take advantage of this technology right away, increasing the existing investment you have already made with Windchill. Today, many of our customers are on a journey from a 2D drawing-centric approach to a more complete and efficient part-centric approach. Windchill is perfect to support this journey since Windchill parts are incredibly powerful and the management of parts and the relationships is very robust. With Windchill 11, we introduce improvements to help customers get to a part-centric approach and unleash the full power of Windchill for managing complete, multi-dimensional bill of materials. These include new visualization actions on the structure page, so users can move and measure in the context of the product structures visualization tab, a new graphical status update so users can see progress of their parts and assemblies, auto-generate a part name based on the classification that is selected for a part, along with many other bill of material and general CAD data management improvements, which we will discuss shortly. The fifth improvement is specific to Windchill NPM Link. Windchill 11 completes a colossal overhaul of NPM Link with the delivery of a new HTML-based BOM transformation user interface. We've heard from many customers how important managing a manufacturing bill of materials is for their organization. In the past, they've appreciated the value NPM Link delivers, unifying engineering and manufacturing planning. But these customers have been slow to adopt NPM Link due to the complex UI. Windchill 11 removes this issue and makes it simple and easy to transform an engineering bill of material into a manufacturing bill of material. In addition, NPM Link includes new capabilities like plant-specific attributes on a BOM and improved performance. Plus, if you have not had a chance to view the updates to NPM Link that came out in Windchill 10.2, M20, and M30, which include an entirely new user interface for process planning, the ability to map out work instruction images sequentially, a completely new factory and plant layout capability, and you should take another look at Windchill NPM Link. Moving on to what I think might be one of the top two most welcome enhancements in Windchill 11 is regarding the topic of change management. For the first time, customers can configure their own change management process to match their business needs. Windchill 11 introduces flexible change associations and allowing the ability to configure links between a variety of different change objects. An example of how a customer may use this is connecting the out-of-the-box problem report process to the out-of-the-box engineering change notice process. You can also provide constraints between the types of change objects and the cardinality between change objects. The out-of-the-box workflows have been enhanced so that when you close out a change notice, for example, it will also close out the related problem report. For customers that manage documents in Windchill and have used both Windchill desktop integration and the HTML UI to download documents, we now have a common directory location to where your documents will get downloaded to, regardless of the approach you use. Now the user will be able to go to one directory location on their desktop to see which document content they have downloaded from Windchill. Building on the enhancement we made to automatically update the content shared from a PDM context in Windchill 10.2 and 30, Windchill 11 now provides the capability to schedule the updates on an individual project basis. The start time can be configured via system property, as well as the user to perform the synchronization as, and a filter to use when syncing the objects that need to be updated. There have been numerous enhancements in the area of CAD data management in Windchill 11. Here are a few that I felt would be relevant to the majority of you on the call today, regardless of the CAD authoring application that you're using. First, when checking in new or modified data via your workspace, you now have the option to create a new promotion request on the fly. This option will save the CAD users from navigating out of their workspace and separately launching and collecting the objects that they want to promote. There have been a number of workspace performance enhancements done in Windchill 11. One of them is the ability to define what objects are included in the featured object list. This will allow the user to star items that are important to them and filter out the clutter in the workspace and improve workspace refresh times because fewer objects are displayed. There have been several enhancements made with the creation of new objects and how auto-numbering of those objects is handled. Based on your object initialization rules and preferences, you can include the file extension on an auto-numbered CAD document, as well as inherit the auto-generated number of a WT part for use on the CAD document. This is also applicable in renaming objects. There's an additional option to use an auto-generated number from the WT part when renaming a CAD document. We are also now allowing users to select unrelated objects from the folder view or search results and execute a rename on those selected objects. PLM, Product Lifecycle Management, implies by its name that it covers the whole lifecycle, but until the Internet of Things, it has not had the opportunity to deliver on that promise. Delivering complete lifecycle data would fill gaps in understanding of the product's actual usage, performance, quality, and service needs, driving huge value to product design. Windchill 11 delivers on this promise with the new Windchill Quality extension for ThingWorx. This extension will make it possible for customers to communicate and gather field quality metrics and share this information with PTC Windchill Fracas. The result is a new level of quality planning and a new approach to address quality issues. This is relevant to all of you as Windchill administrators and users because now we have the capability to embed these ThingWorx mashups within the Windchill UI. This new Windchill 11 capability will put information regarding the quality of a product at the user's fingertips within the UI that they already access on a daily basis. The last enhancement is the new Windchill Performance Advisor. This new capability makes Windchill itself a smart, connected product. This is another example of the power of a ThingWorx-enabled Windchill system. Windchill 11 connects with PTC technical support and delivers information to help maintain and optimize on-premise customer instances. Starting with Windchill 11, customers will send usage information, like license usage reporting, back to PTC. With subsequent updates in 2016, the Windchill Performance Advisor will expand its capabilities to include Windchill tuning recommendations, database and SQL tuning recommendations, feature usage, and adoption reports. Now, let's take a look at all of these capabilities in a demonstration. So first I'm going to start off and show you some of the capabilities that I mentioned with regard to Windchill Search. I have a number of safe search criteria, 3 examples that I'm going to walk you through in this scenario. And the first is going to be an example of combining the classification search capabilities and searching on attributes that are both classification node specific, in this case for flat washers that I've selected as a node, and I've built in a predefined criteria for searching for the inside diameter, outside diameter, and washi thickness. But one thing I want to point out is that when you're reviewing the list of attributes that you have at your disposal, you can see inside diameter and the little tag that pops up for flat washes. This indicates a classification attribute unique to that node. But if I float my mouse over some of the other attributes, I can now combine the business attributes for the object I'm searching against, in this case a part, and include both the business attributes and the classification attributes in the search criteria. I'm going to go execute the search and see what kind of results I get back. In this case, I'm searching for all flat washers with specific criteria. And another subtle enhancement I wanted to point out is you can see the actual criteria that you used to define what's presented in the search results table. In this case, it found 51 objects that match that specific criteria. Obviously, a variety of different washers. And one of the other enhancements I didn't mention earlier is the dynamic insert of the attributes you included in the criteria into the search results table. So anytime, if it's a classification attribute or a business object attribute, when you include that in the criteria, the value of that attribute in the column will be included in the results table. So you don't have to go and create unique table displays depending on the types of searches you're trying to execute. Now over on the left-hand side is the new faceted search results. So this will allow me to filter the results based on attributes that are different for this part type in the search results table. So I can expand, I'll do this one at a time, and refine the results based on the washer thickness. So I can use a drag handle to specify a minimum value for the washer thickness and apply that filter, and it results in 42 objects from 51. If we take a look at the outside diameter, maybe we'll use the slider to apply that filter, and inside diameter, and so on and so forth. So I can type in values, I can use the slider, I can put in both a min and a max, and apply that as filtering criteria. So very quickly I've gone from 51 to 29, and you can see it's not just dimensional information, it's other attribute information, such as the washer series. I'm looking for regular washers and a particular size. So I've really gotten down from 51 possible matches on my flat washer classification to one matching search result. So let's go and take a quick look at another search that I mentioned earlier, the ability to preview the text when you execute a keyword search on document content. So in this case, my saved search criteria is searching for the phrase Windchill 11 as the keyword in documents. So when the search result is returned, I've included in the default document view this text preview column, which is new in Windchill 11. And when I float my mouse over that text preview column, you can see the word or phrase and the context of the file that resulted in this match. So this would preclude me from having to go download the document, open it up, and see if this is what I was actually looking for. I can get some context-sensitive results in the search result filter. Now, the last example I'm going to talk about, it's going to build into my query builder portion of the demonstration. So I'm just going to execute a search that's not really unique to Windchill 11, but I'm going to search on all parts that begin with the name BR with the asterisk in the view of the engineering view of my bill of material. And it's going to return, in this case, 27 matching objects. I just want you to sit on this information for a second. I'm going to come back and refine this search result based on some of the new capabilities I'm going to show you with the Query Builder in just a moment. So as I mentioned in Query Builder, the UI has been completely rewritten in HTML5. We've removed the Java applet to write new Query Builder reports. And here's one I've started, and I'm going to edit to show you some of the new capabilities. So within the web browser, I have the opportunity to input properties of this new query, the name, the description, who created it, last modified it, so on and so forth. I could expose this as a report by selecting the checkbox. And what's very powerful and handy and I think a lot of customers are getting a lot of value out of this, is the ability to use queries with your advanced search. So I have that enabled. Moving on to the tables and joins, what I've always found difficult is there's a lot of objects in Windchill. And when you're writing reports, you can see some of the capabilities I'm going to just kind of click through and talk about. But there's 2,500 some odd Windchill objects. But if by selecting the show types and use, I'm filtering the objects that I'm only using in my system to 1,400. And then if I start to type in a specific object name, I can filter that list down even further to change notices. And you see more information and help at your disposal to learn more about the specific object that you might want to include in your query. So I've already gone through and included a part, WT part object, and the WT document object. And I'm just going to delete this reference just to show you one of the other new enhancements to create and establish relationships between the two objects. So holding down my left mouse button, I'm just going to click and drag from the orange box on the part and drop it onto the document to create a join. And for these, between these two types of objects, there's 32 types of joins. And I could read through the documentation, try to figure out which one I want to query a document described by link. But in this case, again, a handy filter to just show the joins that are in use within my Windchill instance. So I only have documents related to parts using a described by link, so that's the only option that will show up, making it very easy to understand the relationships that you have created in your Windchill environment. If I move over to the Select and Constraint tab, this is the opportunity to add different filtering or searching criteria if you were to run this as a report, but all of this criteria will also show up when I associate this report in the context of a search. And I'll show you that in a moment. So it's very easy to change the header names. I can right-click and insert items above. There's new divider capabilities. Very easy to configure the report of the attributes that you want to select. And then you can also establish a variety of other filters. So you can have operators, default values for particular states. In this case, my document state. And I've pre-selected in work and released, and you'll see an example of that when we run this query in conjunction with our search. So only a couple minutes worth of introductory to the new query builder. Very powerful and easy to use tools. And again, I'm going to come back to the search I executed on parts that started with BR and incorporate that new query by selecting the report template down below as a related object search. And as I select that related object search, you can see the document name, number, and state in the predefined values I've already selected that were defined in the query. So now I have the power to combine both attribute searches on a specific object and also be able to trace between relationships, in this case between parts and described by documents. So when I re-execute the search, I've dwindled down the results from 21 or 27, I think I said, down to 2 matching objects using both the attribute criteria and the query builder report to help me filter the results based on related information. So in this case, this particular brake caliper has an instruction for use document describing it, as well as some load calculations for the brake disc assembly. Very powerful capabilities that just one other example, I have a quick second. Other customers have asked me, how else could I apply this? So for example, maybe you want to run a report and show all the parts that are impacted on affected objects on a change notice, for example, or show me all the parts that have a C16 reference designator within Windchill. Very simple queries that you can build very complex search criteria against. So moving on, speaking about searches, let's talk about PTC Navigate View apps. As you can see, I'm on a landing page for PTC Navigate View, and I mentioned there are 7 view apps that we provide in this release of PTC Navigate View. I'm not going to have an opportunity to go through all of them today, but I would like to mention, and I'll reiterate this at the end of the call, that there's going to be a webcast on March 10th at 11 o'clock that will go into the PTC Navigate View apps in much more detail than I'm going to have time for today. So we have apps such as viewing neutral data or design files that might be related to a part. We'll take a look at view drawing and view product structure. You can also have view a parts list or just individual part properties with the PTC Navigate View apps. So let's take a quick peek at the view drawing app. And again, these were designed to be very simple applications where you input a part number. You can actually see recently accessed search results. And I can actually enter in the number or the name of an object. There's some preferences that your system administrator can configure. So I can enter a partial part number 4897, for example, and hit the magnifying glass to go and execute that search. So in this particular scenario, the WT part object that I just searched for was traversing the relationship to find any related CAD drawings. And in my particular instance of Windchill, the drawing happens to be published as a PDF secondary viewable content. So I'm provided with the opportunity to open that PDF file directly from Windchill using the PTC View Drawing Navigate app and deliver that directly to the user with one click. And here is just some other resulting information about the part that we just searched for, and it delivered the PDF representation to the end user. Now, if you didn't publish the PDF, that's not a requirement. If you just have the Creo View representation, and that was the only form of the viewable that you had available in your Windchill environment, we would return to the user and launch Creo View in the browser and present the drawing in that fashion to the user. Let's take a look at one other example of PTC Navigate View part structure. And we'll go and take a look at an assembly that we're going to use in the rest of the demonstration. So in this case, I'm not going to search for it. I've already searched and found it previously, so I'm going to pull from my recent results and launch into the front wheel assembly just by clicking on the thumbnail. So I have basic metadata about the assembly presented to me in the upper left-hand corner with a thumbnail. I have the Creo View visualization file that I can interact with on the lower left-hand side. And then I also have the product structure, the part structure in this case, available to me in a table on the right-hand side. So you can do things like cross-highlighting, as you might expect. If I select on a sub-assembly or select on a part, up in the upper right-hand corner, anything I click on will show me the detailed information about that particular part in the app. And if I wanted to navigate away from the details page for this particular front wheel assembly and go to the anti-lock braking system, I'm provided with a URL that will launch this particular part in the View Part Structure Navigate application. So very quick and easy tools to consume data that's housed in Windchill for users throughout your enterprise. And just one last note, if I wanted to traverse between the multiple applications that are available against parts, in this case, I could just click on any one of these buttons to view the part properties, view the parts list, view and measure in 3D, which essentially will launch Creo View, and feed this front wheel assembly into Creo View. If there was a drawing associated, I could access that from here. Or if there's any neutral content, such as step or IGES files that are related to the part or CAD data, I could download them from this application. Okay, so let's continue on and talk about some of the bill of material enhancements that were made inside of Windchill 11 in the native Windchill UI on this front wheel assembly. So the first thing I'm going to show you a couple enhancements that I didn't describe in the slide presentation, but I think that many of you probably have been asking for over time. And the first one that I want to highlight is I'm just going to start to expand the structure. We'll go down to the brake assembly, and the brake disc. And what you see here automatically appearing is the related document to this brake disc part. So now in Windchill 11, users can configure when they're traversing product structure what they want to show and what they want to show and automatically display as they're perusing the structure. So for documents, my preference is set to show and automatically display any document objects that are related to a part. And we've also split the show and hide function in the toolbar. So when I select show now, based on my preferences, when I have the front wheel assembly highlighted, it's automatically defined to show documents, which there are none related to this particular assembly, in CAD documents. And then I can hide all the artifacts that support the WT part as well. So small enhancement. A lot of customers have asked me over time, how do you show things automatically? Well, now we have a solution in Windchill 11. Another small enhancement that we've made, your system administrators can configure the availability of the thumbnail and the part attributes page. So when you're selecting and viewing individual components or subassemblies, you have a thumbnail representation, and you can click on that thumbnail and actually open it in Creo view for further interrogation as well. So many of you are probably thinking, what are these little checkboxes over here on the left-hand side next to all the parts? So let me show you what that does. Within the Visualization tab, by default, and every user can set their own preferences entirely up to them, I'm not going to load the visualization data for this particular assembly. So these checkboxes allow you to select individual components that you want to display or see within the visualization panel. So, maybe for an assembly that's, this not very large, it's only 50 or so parts. It's no big deal to load the entire assembly so I can visualize it on the right-hand side. But for customers that have significantly larger data sets in the thousands and tens of thousands of parts, they may not want this representation information to be streamed and have to wait to interact with the product structure. So that's an enhancement that each user can individually set what their preference is. And then maybe you've also noticed our inclusion of some more tools to interact with the visual representation. So I can change the display, for example. I can use previously saved views when this data was published. I can fit the screen and zoom all. And then I can also interact and rotate and translate any of these objects. So if I want to move the tire out of the way so I don't have to open up a separate Creo view session, I have these types of tools at my disposal so I can interact with the data and I don't have to go and open it in a separate window. There's also some capabilities to measure the information as well. All right, so let's quickly transition over to the Windchill NPM link enhancement for transforming your engineering view of your bill of material to a manufacturing view of the bill of material. So I'm going to invoke the action to open up this particular product structure in the new Manufacturing Associated Part Structure browser. Again, this is a new HTML UI that allows me to reconcile and create downstream views from my engineering bill of material. So on the left-hand side, I have that. In this case, my view is called EBOM for engineering view. You can see I have some other tools and tabs that are at my disposal for working with this particular data. So I can see the product as it currently stands. On the right-hand side, I have my manufacturing view of the bill of material. And I'm still working on it. It's currently checked out by me, and you can see from the graphic there's some components that are actually missing. So certainly that's one way to tell if your manufacturing view of the bill of material is consuming all of the parts from your engineering bill of material. But a more powerful tool is to use this reconciliation assistant to help you understand what the discrepancies are between your EBOM and your MBOM. So just by very quickly running that report, it found numerous matches where I haven't yet transformed, in this case of the rim, from the EBOM over to the MBOM. So we've also introduced capabilities such as write, selecting, and copy. And I can come over here to the top level assembly and paste that component into the MBOM. And now we have the front rim used, and you can see the updated visualization. So this, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of work that we've done inside of Windchill MPM Link and Windchill 10.2, M20, M30, and now Windchill 11 with the introduction of this HTML-based BOM transformation tool to go from EBOM to MBOM, and also to support other levels of bill of material such as a service BOM as well. We use these same capabilities. Okay, let me move on and talk about some of the enhancements that we made in change management and change associations. So as a site administrator, which I'm currently logged in as, you have the ability to define your change association rules. So out of the box, the rules that I have selected follow your traditional object relationships that you're accustomed to. So a problem report would feed a change request. A change request would feed a change notice. A variance would feed a change request, so on and so forth. But in this case, I've actually established a new change association rule that I've highlighted here to be able to create a change notice. In this case, I've created a soft type of a change notice, and I called it flexible change notice. And I can create that from a problem report. And I can define the cardinality and the link association type. So we even provided a very simple user interface to actually create these new associations between a variety of the different change objects. So all I did is selected problem report and define that when I create a new change object from a problem report, it has to be a flexible change notice soft type. I have to find the cardinality and other information about the change association rule. So it's very quick and easy to go and create those types of new relationships between change objects. Now let me show you how that's actually implemented and what it looks like. And we'll initiate the creation of a new change notice from this existing accepted problem report. So through the Actions menu, I have the ability to directly go to New, and now Change Notice shows up as an available option based on that new change association rule I have established. So when I select New Change Notice, you can see that it automatically dictates that I have to create a flexible change notice soft type. And I still have tools to propagate information from the problem report. As you might be familiar with, going from a problem report to a change request, you can automatically propagate information. So that still holds true when you go between newly defined change associations. So the name, the need by date, all of that information has been transferred from the problem report into the change notice, including the affected objects. So I have the top level front wheel assembly, the drawing of that assembly, and the CAD assembly as well, all associated as items on this newly defined change task. And the last thing I want to point out is the select associations. So in Windchill 11, because you can define your associations, the terminology in the UI has changed a little bit, so you can see all related process objects. So this is the problem report that is now associated to this change notice. Now, one other thing that I'm anticipating someone may ask in the Q&A portion is that when I close out a change notice, will it actually go out and close out the problem report? So the answer to that question would be yes. You may have to update the workflows if you don't use the out-of-the-box processes. If you use your own workflows, you just have to update some of the methods of the workflow to close out the related change objects based on your change association rules. Moving on to document management. So currently I'm looking at the details page of a document through the standard Windchill UI. And in previous versions of Windchill, if you were to interact with this document, download it and check it out, or just download the primary file, you would get prompted where you want to save the document. So based on the preferences I've established for myself as a user, I want all of my document content to be saved directly to my D drive. So between interacting with the data through the HTML UI and Windchill desktop integration, I can establish a common location to download all of this content to. So when I go and look for it on my desktop, I only have to go to one place, and I don't have to bounce around between the different folders. So I've just downloaded this content. It'll download it, open it up in Microsoft Word in this case, and then I could interact and check the document out through the desktop integration toolbar that's embedded in Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So let me show you where that common location is. I'm just going to minimize the browser and open up Windows Explorer. So my preference was to download the content to my D drive, and based on my server alias that I've used to connect Windchill desktop integration, it creates a folder with the same name as the server alias, and that happens to be Windchill 11. So if I navigate into this particular folder, I can see all the products and libraries that I have access to. In this case, the Synergy product is the data set that I'm demonstrating with today. And if I go into my Documents folder, here is that document that I just downloaded via the HTML interface. And so I don't have to select where I want to save it. It knew where to put it, and it's going to put it in the same place consistently, whether or not I use Windchill desktop integration, or if I'm perusing Windchill through Windows Explorer, and I want to download that content, it's still going to download that primary file to the same directory location locally, irregardless of the method I used to get that content. So if we just navigate back to that path locally, you can see that here is the preview program definition document I just downloaded again. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Windchill desktop integration, this little icon indicates now that the document's local, it's being managed by Windchill, and that's a preference that you can establish in the configuration of desktop integration. Okay, just a couple other topics to cover. The synchronization of updates between a PDN context and Windchill project link. So when you share data from a product or library, there's some options when you define a new project to do a few things. You can first enable the ability to identify out-of-sync shared objects using a checkbox in the context of this particular project. And building on what I mentioned earlier, an enhancement in 10.2M30, we can now synchronize and schedule the synchronization to automatically update out-of-sync shared objects. So by default, I think there is a server property that is defined to schedule that synchronization at 2 a.m. in the morning, and it can be adjusted according to your needs. And you can still, on an individual project basis, schedule a synchronization to update all out-of-date shares, or you can manually synchronize it as well. If it's set to scheduled, who's the user that's supposed to execute the synchronization, and is there a sharing filter that you want to apply to the data that needs to be updated in the project? Okay, so, and again, that's on a project-by-project basis, where you can schedule that update of out-of-date objects. So let's go into some of the CAD data management improvements. I'm just going to, again, minimize my browser and, in this case, do all of the demonstration in the context of PTC Creo Parametrics 3.0. But as I mentioned earlier, all of these enhancements are going to be applicable to any user of any CAD system that leverages the Workgroup Manager, or obviously PTC Creo Parametrics 3.0. So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about in this part of the demonstration. The first is the featured object list and the ability to add and define what objects should be relevant or featured in your workspace. So as I visit a lot of the customers in the New England area, this is not too many folks were even familiar with a featured object list. So in previous versions of Windchill in 10.2, 10.1, a featured object list would show you new objects you've created in your workspace, objects you've added to your workspace, things that are checked out to you, and there's a couple other rules that I don't recall off the top of my head. And it was a hard rule. You couldn't actually have any flexibility what was shown as in the featured object list. So now in Windchill 11, I've added this column on the left-hand side where you see these gold stars to be able to select objects that I want to be displayed in my featured object list. Okay, so I can scroll down. I have 79 objects in this workspace, not significantly large, but I can pick additional objects that I want to include in my featured object list just by clicking on the little star. And when I filter my workspace using that list, now I have 16 out of 79 objects displayed. When I don't want to see those objects anymore in my featured object list, such as these rename me parts, I can just unclick the star and will be removed out of my workspace display. Left in turn helping with better workspace performance because you're not refreshing all of the metadata for the 79 objects. It's only looking at 13 in this case. And then there's also a preference that you can automatically display this object list as a featured object list as well. By default, it comes up as a list and shows you everything in your workspace. So you can toggle that preference on in Windchill 11. On to some of the naming and numbering enhancements that I alluded to in the presentation. Let me just take you through an example of creating a new part in the context of this workspace and running you through the wizard for the creation of the new part. So in my particular instance of Windchill, I have auto numbering enabled for both parts and CAD documents. So in this case, when I go through and create a new part, you can see it's generated number. I'm just going to input a name for this part. And then also select to create and associate a CAD document simultaneously when I create the part record. So that invokes step 3 in the new part wizard. And I have some Creo templates established in my Windchill environment. So I'm going to create a new CAD part, it's a CAD document type, and also the template that I want to reference. But the new enhancement in 11 is this checkbox right here. So many customers want their part numbers to be the same as the CAD document numbers and vice versa. So now in the creation wizard, I can just click this box and the auto-generated number for the WT part will be applied and leveraged as the number for the CAD document, and we're going to include the extension, the .prt, to make this object unique. Because in most cases, customers will want to create a drawing with the same number with the extension. The name was transferred from the WT part. The file name of this new CAD document is going to be the same as the generated WT part number. And when I finish that process, I'll end up with 2 new objects, a part in a CAD document, all with the same number, name, and file name. So here's the auto-generated WT part number. And it was applied to both the number for the CAD document and the actual file name. Now let's go check in these new objects. I'm not going to get into modeling anything today. And through the check-in process, when I go through an advanced check-in where I can see the collection of objects and set the options, I have the opportunity to create a new promotion request after the check-in completes. So this is an enhancement that's going to be welcomed by many of my customers that I support in New England. The users have to get out of Windchill or go to the home page and find those objects again and launch a new promotion request. It's just multiple steps that this should alleviate. While I'm in the new promotion request dialog box, I'm just going to talk about a couple other new enhancements in the promotion request object itself. We've now introduced the ability to define a need by date in Windchill 11, and also there's the opportunity to add in promotion comments for each object on the promotion request. And we'll just complete and submit that new promotion request. So let me just navigate to a folder in this particular product to show you some of the renaming capabilities. Now, in the past, I wouldn't be able to bulk select unrelated objects in Windchill and execute a rename. So that's something that many of my customers have been asking for over the years. They would have to do this one by one, which was time consuming, and now I have the ability to select, and these are all unrelated parts. I can go through the action and rename them all at the same time. So that's a new enhancement in Windchill 11 to be able to facilitate selecting unrelated information and executing this type of operation on it. Now I'm going to sort these objects. All my parts are on the bottom. All my CAD documents are listed at the top. And I mentioned during the rename process earlier, I could apply the auto-numbered, I could rename an object and get an auto-generated number for a WT part. So there's a new option to auto-generate a new number. And I'm going to change the name to the same thing as the number and hit OK. So I'm querying the system. It's pulling a new number for each one of these parts. Now I want that new number for each one of these parts to be applied to each of the related CAD documents. So selecting all the CAD documents and using the Set New Name wizard, I now have another new option to generate the document number based on the related part. I'm going to make the name the same, and I'm going to make the number the same as well. Okay, so unfortunately, it's still a two-step process to actually execute this type of change, but now I can rename my CAD data based on part information. So my auto-generated part, my new CAD document number and file name, and it's all applied appropriately. So another significant enhancement in renaming that many of our customers have been asking for. So I think that's all I wanted to cover in the CAD data management area. As I mentioned, there's many other improvements. We're just not going to have time to go through them in any more detail today. There's one other thing I want to demonstrate for you, and then we'll take it to some Q&A. So let me just go back into my front wheel assembly within the browser. I just want to show you an example of connected quality. Now, the enhancement I mentioned in the presentation was related to the ability to configure the Windchill UI to display ThingWorx mashups. So specifically, what I'm going to do in this case is add a new tab to this user's interface. Using the Customize pull-down, I have the ability to include now predefined ThingWorx mashups. So in this case, I have a connected quality mashup that I want to display that's leveraging the new Windchill Quality Solutions ThingWorx extension. So I don't know how many of you actually use our Windchill Quality Solutions platform for defining FMEAs and fracas and DVPs and control plans, but this Quality Solutions extension is actually tapping into the Windchill Quality's solution database, and I can query information directly through this mashup and present it in Windchill, either on a tab that a user configures, on a tab that is defined by an administrator, as an action or a tab in the product list. There's a variety of different input areas where you can define where these mashups are displayed, and certainly I've only configured one for this demonstration, but you can include multiple options for users to pick and choose what they want to display. So I'm going to just navigate to the tablets PC project and system and just show you an example report of predicted versus actual failure rates. And again, we're querying this data live in our Windchill Quality Solutions database, and I can query the system tree and see all the different components. with the predicted failure rates. And then down below, I have a table of the number of incidents reported against each part number in a simple graph that's being displayed within this particular mashup. So again, this is just a very quick example of some of the capabilities that the Windchill Quality Solutions Framework extension can provide you. And more importantly, I wanted to make sure that you understood that these mashups can be included inside of the Windchill UI. Okay, so I think the last topic I wanted to draw your attention to is today we just covered the top 11 enhancements in Windchill 11, but there are many more improvements than those I just had the opportunity to present and walk you through. But some of those other improvements revolve around the enhancements in the area of security labels to protect your organization's IP, numerous improvements within Windchill Project Link to address the execution of project plans, a new HTML view for viewing the running workflow processes. It's no longer rendered as a Java applet. Full support for managing Creo Parametric 3.0 design exploration sessions in Windchill 11. And there's many, many other enhancements. And if you want to review all of the enhancements that I haven't had an opportunity to cover today, you can go through the PTC Windchill Help Center, and there's a new and change for this release in all of our help now. For Windchill 11, there's a slew of other enhancements that I haven't had the opportunity to share with you today that you can review in detail. So with that, let me take a quick pause and see if there are any questions that I can answer, and we can wrap it up.
Thank you, James. Again, if you'd like to ask James a question, please use the question box located on the left side of your control panel.
Okay, so there's a couple questions. What about renaming objects from the search results window? So I think I did mention that is a capability. You can actually select multiple objects out of the search results window and execute the action and rename, or execute the rename interface for multiple objects, either from the search results window or from the folders window, as I indicated. There's another question: will the Performance Advisor replace the PTC System Monitor? No, there are not plans for replacing the PTC System Monitor with a Performance Advisor. The System Monitor is an application monitoring solution that your customer can run in-house to self-monitor your system. The Performance Advisor is just providing another added level of support where data is sent to PTC and can be automatically analyzed and compared to our knowledge base, and that will provide more proactive level of product support that PSM just can't provide yet. Let's see, I'm just trying to read through some of these questions here and answer them in a short amount of time. Well, there's quite a few. I'm not sure I'm going to get through all these today, but we do have a list of who asked the question, and I will respond personally to each of you if I don't get to your question today. There's another one around: do you have to have the index search installed, enabled for faceted search to work? The answer to that question is yes. Someone also asked, can you section a part or an assembly using the new visualization tools when viewing the product structure? No, you cannot do that today. You'd still have to launch into Creo View to use the cross-section capabilities. Someone mentioned, I don't use the out-of-the-box reports for problem reports, and change notices or closing the CN still close out the problem report. The answer to that is yes, as long as you update your workflows with the updated methods in Windchill 11 to facilitate the closing of those related change objects. And probably take one or two more questions. Are the quality change objects supported when using the new change associations? I didn't allude to that, but yes, if you recall from the list, all the kappa objects and nonconformance and customer experience management change objects are supported to define those new change associations as well. Do the renaming enhancements also apply to save as? So they do not in Windchill 11 first customer ship, but it is on the backlog to include that enhancement and apply it to save as. This recording will be available to you in the future, and I think that will be available in the next week or so. And I think with that, let me just put up one more slide. Advertisement for another webcast in the future. I think there's a lot of questions in the queue that I haven't gotten to around PTC Navigate View. I mean, I'll try to respond to you individually, as I mentioned, but again, there's going to be a webcast on March 10th at 11 o'clock in the morning that will take you through the PTC Navigate View apps in much more level of detail than I had the opportunity to cover in today's webcast. So with that, I think, Nicole, we can wrap